While the coronavirus has shut down most global forms of real-world motorsport, series like Formula E have made the shift online to sim racing. Ahead of the all-electric series making a virtual stop in a virtual Monaco, I went online with Nissan Edam's driver Sébastien Buemi, one of the most successful Formula E competitors of all time, to get some tips on how to drive this track in R-Factor 2 and to chat about Formula E's entry into the world of sim racing.
Yeah, are you already on the track or?
I am coming out right behind you.
Oh, nice. So turn one is quite narrow. I think obviously second gear is a bit nicer to drive. Unfortunately, in this sim, when you downshift, you tend to lock the rear tires a lot. I'm sure you felt that.
I may have spun the car a few times doing that, yes.
Yeah. So it's not easy. So that's why you need to try to downshift. If you want to downshift, you downshift very late, nearly before you go back on power. It's obviously not very realistic, and on top of that, nobody has any gears anymore. We have only one gear. So importantly, I just put it in the Masterclass, the first gear. The rest of the corners, I try not to downshift.
And when do you upshift? Do you run it all the way up to the rev limiter?
No, I try to upshift earlier because I feel that there is more torque, basically. So I try to upshift quite a bit earlier.
And what's this setup of the track like for you? Was it a little bit disorienting the first time you came here, and not running up the hill and going through the full course like you're used to?
Yeah, I think for the first generation it was nice. Last year it was a bit of a shame that we didn't get to drive the big track. I just think it would have been nice. But obviously they are right now a bit scared of the comparison with Formula One in general. So why they try not to drive with the same circuit.
Sure. And how about going through the swimming pool chicane? How much curbing are you taking there? How much do you get the car in the air, or are you trying to keep everything on the ground?
Keep it on the ground, but I'm using the curb quite a bit, this for sure. Just because otherwise you need to downshift a lot, you need to slow down a lot, Do
you mind slowing up for just a second so I can get up behind you again?
Yeah. So you're driving with you don't have the screen, you have a virtual mask. Is it good?
Yes, here we go. Okay, I got you now. Yeah, I tend to prefer virtual reality because it means I can look through the corners and to the apex. That to me makes a big difference. So yeah, I tend to like VR. It's obviously not very good if you're going to be in the game for a long time, but yeah, it does allow me to spot the apex, especially if I'm doing like a rally game, which I tend to do a fair bit of. It's really, really important to be able to look up the road, and being able to do that in a virtual reality headset is much easier.
Okay.
How about this corner? I've struggled here a lot. Are you trying to get the car to rotate and slide a little bit here? Oops, in fact, I just blew that corner completely. How are you getting around here quickly?
I think the good guys, so the quick guys, they slide it. Me, every time I try that, I either do too much or I don't do enough. And then I end up basically spinning.
Yeah, I did a little bit of that too.
Yeah, I try not to slide it. I mean, in reality, you can't,
Yeah, how much do these tires work with sliding? They are more of a street-like compound, which you'd think would give them more of a more gentle slip angle. Is that something that you can utilize in the race?
In the race, you don't want to slide too much, just because every time you slide a lot, you basically overheat the tires, and the next corner the car is going to be it's not going to feel good. So you try not to slide, but in here, I've seen that you can basically slide a bit more.
And tell me about the regenerate of the system, and how do you balance that with working the brake balance of the car? That's one area where I've definitely struggled trying to get the car to feel balanced, because having the regen on the rear in addition to working the brake balance has been something I can't quite get my head around.
Yeah, so depending on how much regen you want to drive, you have to adjust the brake balance. So in general, if you drive a lot of regen, you go forward on the brake balance, and if you drive less, then you can go down on the regen.
And is that something that you're adjusting over the course of a given race usually?
Yes. So here, obviously, I'm still experimenting. So I'm gonna see what feels the best, you know.
Mm-hmm. And is tire wear something that you need to normally be aware of and deal with, or is it other than heat? Are they usually pretty solid?
In the game, I've tried to feel, and I didn't feel much, to be honest. Maybe the very good guys, they do feel it, but me, I couldn't feel the difference. In reality, depending on the racetrack, it can be a concern.
Mm-hmm. How do the developers do when it comes to the sound? Does this sound about like what you expect in the real world?
Yeah, the sound is amazing. It really sounds like that.
And this must have been a big adjustment for you, again, coming from a normal, very loud race car to be able to hear the tires and even hear the wind.
Yeah, but to be honest, you know, you get used to that very quickly. Huh? It's amazing how quickly you get used to that.
Is that something that you rely on now? I mean, do you listen for the tires? Do you listen for the feedback from the car differently?
Yeah, you do listen. Huh? I do listen a lot. At the end, obviously, each car has its own characteristic, but to be honest, it's quite interesting to be able to hear that. You sometimes hear issues before you would normally hear them.
So, Sebastian, what do you do before qualifying? Do you listen to a certain set of music, a playlist? Do you just try to be quiet?
I'll chat with the mechanics. I feel like it's kind of making me stay calm, you know, thinking about something else and not focusing only about what you're gonna do. Because it's easy to think too much about it, you know, and then you go crazy and you mess it up.
Well, we got no mechanics here today, I'm sorry to say.
Yeah, exactly. So
something tells me though you'll be okay getting on pole though.
we'll see. It's one lap. Easy to mess it up.
Very easily, as I'm finding out. All right. So, looks like low 53 for you and a mid 54 for me, high mid. So, about a second and a half off. Not great, not too bad, I guess.
Yeah, to be honest, the low 53, I don't know if I've done that, Martin. I don't know who's done that. Anyway, I've been struggling within 3/10 of that. So you might have a good chance.
Well, we'll find out here real soon. Is it okay to ask difficult questions and distract you now? Sébastien was not one to be distracted, clocking in a 53.137 fastest lap. I followed up with a 54.7.
You did a good job.
Thank you very much.
Because the one lap is not easy.
1.5 seconds behind a pro? I was pretty happy with that. But now it was time for the race. Any tips for the launch, Sebastian? How do you launch a Formula E car? You got no clutch, you got no traction control. How does this work?
Yeah, so I'm staying in neutral, and then I basically go to first gear when it starts. You know, I put some throttle, and then when it starts, I go to first gear.
Good luck. Oh, I might have got a run here. You get the line though.
What?
Oh!
Where are you?
Oh, I ran wide. Not a good start.
I'll wait for you.
That's very nice of you. Cold tires. Oh. All right. Thank you. Oh, you're getting smaller already. So which of these boats is yours?
I wish.
I got a good start, but then immediately put the car in the wall. Cold tires, always got to remember the cold tires. After that, it was just a question of watching Sébastien get smaller and smaller and smaller in the distance. He did mention making a few mistakes, and I tried to keep it as clean as I could. But this car's just so much fun to slide around, I couldn't resist having a little bit of fun in the tighter corners. And at the end of the day, it didn't really matter. A professional like Sébastien was always going to beat a rookie like me. Oh, and there it is.
So I suppose we go back to the pits?
Yeah, I think so. How much time do you normally spend sim racing? Are you someone who does a lot of sim racing on your own, or is this kind of new to you?
It's to be honest, I do a lot of simulator for the team in Le Mans or for Red Bull with Formula One, or even I was yesterday in Germany for Toyota in the WEC. So in that kind of those kind of simulator, I do a lot. But at home, to be honest, I didn't do anything before. Now I got the sim from Formula E, so I'm trying to do a bit. But this week, I didn't do much. So. I improved a lot from Hong Kong, where I qualified more or less 23rd out of 24th, but I qualified much better in the second race there in Leicester, and I finished 10th, so I got to get a point. And yes, this week I didn't get much practice because I was in Germany. But to be honest, when I'm here, I try to have something like an hour a day, more or less.
Mm. And how does this compare to the big professional sim rigs that you're doing with the teams that you mentioned before?
To be honest, it's still quite far, but it's a nice game, because compared to other sports, you still get to drive more or less like you would do in reality, where any other sport, whether football or tennis, you just can't, you're not going to have a racket or a ball inside your office, but it's honestly, it's not bad. It's improving obviously a lot. The graphics are pretty impressive. But then obviously the feedback of the wheel, of the fact that the simulator is obviously not moving, those kind of things, obviously you will never really get to the...
But what about the competition though? I mean, having the real drivers that you're normally racing against in the real world, but now doing it in the virtual world, that should mean the competition is still going to be really strong and really, really challenging, right?
Yeah, obviously. Initially I took it more like, I'm going to turn up and, I didn't have much time to practice, but it's going to be fine. And then once you are in it, you don't want to be behind, so you try the best you can, and obviously everyone is practicing a lot, so that's making it very competitive. So yeah, at the end, whether you race on the virtual world or in the reality or in the go-kart or the Formula E, you want to do well,
And how about your personal fitness and everything else? Are you having to work a little bit harder now, given that there's no actual racing going on? Is it harder to keep that edge that you need?
Yeah, I've been training very hard the last 6-7 weeks now. I've been flat out on the fitness side, so much more than what I normally get to do, just because I'm traveling too much. But yeah, it's been kind of nice to get into a rhythm and get the opportunity to train and sleep and kind of do it day after day. It's been kind of nice.
And so, how are you looking forward to the season? I mean, how do you feel going into the races now? It seems like, again, you're struggling a little bit to find time to practice. Do you think you'll kind of get the groove and come up and excel like you normally do in the real world?
Yeah. To be honest, I would need to spend more time. It's clear. Maybe people, I don't know if I have the good talent for the virtual world, but I need to spend more time in it. That's clear. I spent a lot of time on the previous track, and I've obviously improved a lot. Now for Monaco, it's not going to be much, so we'll see where I get to. But yeah, it's difficult to divide your time because slowly in Europe things are restarting slowly. So I'm gonna travel to the factory and spend time there. So it's I'm gonna do the best I can, but obviously I need a bit more practice.
Yeah, it really is amazing how much time the dedicated sim racing pros spend doing this. I've been lucky enough to talk to a bunch of them over the past few weeks because there's so much interest around sim racing right now, and many of them are spending upwards of 6, 7, 8 hours a day, sitting in the chair, looking at the sim and driving, and that kind of blows my mind. The idea that someone could really sit here for 8 hours a day driving sounds kind of exhausting to me.
Yeah, no, exactly. So I'm definitely not doing that. Since Saturday, I've not been in. It's the first time I'm in since Saturday, just because I've been away. But clearly, you cannot compensate the hours you spend in. So it's clear that you.
Now, you're one of the most successful Formula E drivers of all time, if not the most successful. How has the evolution of the series been for you? You've been there for quite a while now. How's the car changed? How has the feel of the driving changed? And how has the sport evolved?
It's been evolving very well. Obviously it was very important for the championship to establish itself, to make sure it would survive, because we've seen so many championships collapsing after 1, 2, 3 years. And I think we came over that, and now with all the manufacturer being involved, obviously the level has improved. The cars are getting better. We have now the Gen 2 car, which obviously We got rid of the two-car scenario in the races. So all good stuff coming up, basically. I think we are still far from what we want to achieve. So Formula E is working very hard in trying to continue to improve and basically grow. But I think it keeps getting better year after year. We've never had a deep, after a few years, it's always improved. And I think if we continue like that at some point, it's going to be amazing.
And you've been lucky to drive a lot of different amazing cars, Formula One, endurance cars, Le Mans, everything like that. How does the Formula E car feel? What kind of technique do you need to get the most out of that car versus the other things that you've driven before?
Yeah, so basically everything is a bit different in Formula E. First of all, you race only in city circuit, so that already makes it a bit different because you don't want to damage the car, but you want to be at the limit. On a normal racetrack, we can run wide a little bit in the grass or in the runoff, and it's fine. There, it's not fine at all. Then you have the format of the weekend. Everything's happening on one day with only one lap in qualifying. So all those small things are making it very difficult. And clearly, in WEC, in Formula One, it's all about getting the maximum out of the car and the situation and the lap. Where here it's more about making sure you don't do mistakes. The guy that wins the race is not the guy that didn't do any mistake. He's the guy that did the least mistakes. And clearly it's all about you have to adapt in Formula E a lot more. And I think so far it's been cool because it made the races very entertaining. Just because we never know what's going to happen. You have only one lap in qualifying. You have the qualifying groups also that makes it difficult because the leaders are going in the first group when most of the time the track is worse. So all those things together, they completely mix the situation non-stop, which is not at all the case in Formula One. In Formula One, you get so many laps in qualifying that it's kind of difficult to not get it right. And then obviously the fastest starts at the front, and that's more or less it. Where here, it's really hard. You can look at Evans at the last race. He couldn't do the lap because they wanted to put themselves on the limit with the timing. He had to start last. Or you have many good guys that starts at the back, and then in the race it makes it very interesting.
And then with the car itself, you've got a car that's pretty heavy, but has a lot of torque, but not a lot of horsepower and not a lot of grip. What's it like to drive, and what kind of technique do you need to use to get the most out of the car itself?
You need to be constantly in control. You need to slide as little as you can, but you need to be at the limit. I mean, it's all about driving a little bit under the 100%. Just because otherwise, if you lock up because you don't have slick tires, it's very difficult to unlock the tires. So you tend to run wide, and then basically you try to gain a few hundreds, you lost a second. So it's all about managing the risk you take. And the fact that it's sliding a lot because you don't have slick tires and quite a lot of torque, plus you race in city centers, the risk level, the risk management is more or less everything in qualifying. And on top of that, you only have one lap. So if you don't put it together, your weekend is half gone. And clearly, the technique is about trying to get as close as possible to the limit without obviously making mistakes and trying to slide, but not too much. Yeah, getting the car under control.
Well, that was my race against Sébastien Buemi. No surprise that he absolutely clobbered me, despite the fact that he hasn't had as much time to practice as he wanted to. But that was a lot of fun. I actually learned a lot about what it's like to drive a Formula E car. I've driven one myself, but obviously not with the degree of skill that he has. And it's interesting to get his thoughts on what it's like to drive in a game like R-Factor 2 versus the real simulators that he uses, and of course the real car itself. Looking forward to seeing how he does this season, and everybody else, of course, in this new and brave world of sim racing. And I hope you enjoyed the race as much as I did.